Hello, sweet creatures. It's been hard, hasn't it? The state of the world, the death, the war, the genocide, current political climate, and I've been having a really hard time motivating myself to do any art, which I know is something that helps me stay happy and is so important to my mental well being. So I thought a great thing to do for myself, especially since I'm going to be spending the holiday season with just me and my partner for the first time in years. uh, I need something to keep me occupied and bring me some joy and kind of foster a sense of wonder in the world. So today we're going to be binding a little Yuletide, fanciful, wondrous book, and I will talk about what my plans and thoughts for it are, and maybe next year, early next year, we'll have a flip through of what I finished and what I didn't. So, to introduce the project, I have the book I finished last year. I have a full, very lengthy talk through and flip through of this book. But this was my winter journey into the underworld that I did last year. It is a board book that I've attached a watercolor canvas cover to, some ribbon, a binder clip for a charm, and this was essentially like a meditation aid where I meditated through this journey into the underworld, or into my personal underworld, into myself. And I used a lot of really fun techniques in here. If you want to see how I did this page, I'll also link that video in the card if I can figure out how to do that. I did a video doing a skull plant using the same technique. And one of the inspirations for this was the Jolly Postman books. I had the Christmas one as a kid. I now own both of them because I love them so much. And what I loved about the Jolly Postman books were the little envelopes with the little cards and magazines and fold outs. So the goal for this was to have a lot of cards and fold outs and little hidden details, but it is limited by the fact that it is a board book, and it got very thick very fast, but I was able to do a lot of little cards and fold outs. But for this winter wonder book, my intentions are to basically make it a book almost bound entirely out of pockets and hide stuff. I want to create little like winter spirits. I know Molly Roberts did this, and I am going to be using her grimoire prompts because they're always wonderful. But yes, this was done with Molly Roberts' Glisten course last year. I'm going to be doing the new one along with the Glisten course with my own spin, of course. But yes, I want to bind a book and give myself something wonderful to work on. So let's show you my supplies. A little mid-video interlude from the future. Before we get back into the making, one way to make you feel like you have a way to feel better and make the world a better place is by donating to a good cause. So I'm going to put an image up on the screen here. The Activist Witch here on Instagram and also on YouTube, here on YouTube, also on Instagram, is running the Witches for Gaza campaign. And if you donate following the instructions, I'll link the Instagram post below. If you donate, you get entered into a raffle. There are tarot readings, original artwork, coloring pages that you can win through this raffle. I also want to talk about my friend Ibrahim. He was studying to be a dentist in Gaza before the genocide began, and I will link his family's Instagram and his GoFundMe fundraiser. And if you donate to their fundraiser, at least $5, and send it to my email will also be listed below. I will mail you one of these pieces of art for free. If you're in the US, I'm sorry I can't do it for the rest of the country. I'm just using stamps I already have on hand, just to make a small difference. So if that's the motivation you need to donate, please send me an email. Please donate, or at least read about his family and read about their story. There's so much value in people's stories. With that all out of the way, please donate to at least one of these fundraisers if you can, and we'll get right back into the video. So the first thing is this thin cardboard from some packaging that I traced a plate onto to create this like semi-round shape. Part of the inspiration also is that I want it to be bigger than its binding, so it kind of sticks out. I kind of did that with my dark grimoire, but I want it to be more, and it's going to be a much smaller book, so I'm less worried about bending things over time. But I want like a lot of stuff to stick out of this book, and I'm going to attempt to do like a junk journal binding where I have my two covers and the spine, and each signature has its own spot on the spine, so it has space to expand. Because it's gonna be like all pockets. And then I have some papers set aside from my stash. We'll talk more about this in a minute. I'm going to show you something exciting I have from my Etsy shop. Some doilies, paper bags, sparkly wrapping papers, stuff I've just painted on, just like random papers that I've made. I'm going to make more of this, and I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful, snowy, sparkly texture. More doilies and wrapping paper from Christmas gifts from years ago. I have no idea how long ago, but it's just so pretty, and I've been saving it, so I should just use it for my little wonder package to bring me some joy. So let's make some paper to make our cover for our book. This is just some brown paper. I like to wrap presents in brown paper and tie it up with string. I just think it's so classic and exciting to receive a brown paper package. So I think this should be enough. Otherwise I have more. Yeah, this is gonna be enough. So first step, we're gonna crunch it. I'm gonna crunch it and uncrunch it a few times off camera because I don't appreciate the noise. Sorry for ASMR enthusiasts out there. When I get ASMR, it feels awful. It feels like someone's standing behind me. I don't like it. I'm gonna crunch this up a bunch of times. We're gonna lay it flat, and we're gonna come in with some gesso. Okay, I have my tub of gesso just off camera of a big brush. You don't want too much gesso because you want to really capture some of this texture, but we want some of the brown to show through. The inspiration is like the ground when there's like a dusting of snow or the snow is melting away a little bit. And you get the like peeking out of rocks or tree roots or dirt. We love dirt. Yeah, that's the inspiration. I'm gonna cover this whole sheet with this gesso because I want this to be the paper that the cover of my book is bound in, and I need that before I can bind it together. So once this is gessoed, we're gonna set it aside to dry and start putting together some signatures and making some pockets. Yeah? Yeah. So I'm gonna go on and turn this off because, again, I don't like the sounds. I'm sorry if you do. I'm sorry if you don't like the sounds because I did put in a lot of these. I'm gonna gesso this paper and we'll be back to put together some signatures. So my first thought for pockets is to use pre-made pockets, envelopes, like this big glassine envelope. I can just fold this in half and I think I'll need to cut it short, but I'm okay with it coming short here and being a little too tall. I think it's still gonna be pretty cute. And I'll reuse all the bits I cut off. I'm also gonna put in book pages. And my second thought for pockets, it's like a paper bag, like a little paper shopping bag. Could be bound like this, but I don't know if I like the handle sticking up. I don't know if I like the handles sticking out either. So I might cut off the handles. This is a small business. If you find them, support them. They make wonderful things. I don't know if they have any socials. If they do, I will link them because I bought some beautiful earrings from them. And they have lovely pink bags I get to use for my art projects. I don't throw things away. It's a problem. But I like the idea of a bag as a pocket because of how spacious it is. So maybe I'll do sideways and I'll just cut off the bottom here. Oh no, this is a different person. This person is also wonderful. I'm just gonna link a bunch of people. They have no idea I'm linking them or why. Just because I've bought some wonderful products from them, and you should support small businesses. Support your local small businesses if you can. I'm sure there is an art center near you that's having little holiday market with a bunch of local artists that you could go and support. I might go ahead and time lapse this as I put my thoughts together, and I'll come back to you with some creative pocket ideas I've come up with that are not already pockets. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, that was frustrating to try and time lapse, so it got cut a little short. But I am going to show you the things I made for each signature, or picked out. So I'm going to start from what I'm going to consider the back of the book and then move to the front, because I'm most excited for the one that's going in the front. And I tried to limit myself, but it's gonna be pretty big, which means I'll probably be able to use it for next year too. So this first one, I have one paper I painted with excess acrylic paint, another construction paper that I painted with excess acrylic paint, and I just glued them together to create a pocket on both sides. And then this is a scrapbooking paper that I folded to create a pocket here and a tuck spot along the spine. I'm probably gonna have to cut away just a little bit here just to make sure it's accessible as a tuck spot. The other option is leaving the bottom open and having things tuck in there, which could be cute too. So that's number 2. Then I have some paper I printed lines onto and dyed with tea a long time ago. And then I have some wrapping paper, and I just folded it in half, glued the center, folded the bottom up to create 2 pockets. This is the glassine envelope cut down, and then just some nice paper so I can paint on it. I didn't want to do all pockets, but it is still a lot of pockets, more than I've ever made. Okay, that's the back of the book. So signature number 3. Signature number 2 is kind of small, but I thought it would be cute to have a little small signature in the middle. The first thing is not a pocket, it is half a doily. A doily folded in half. This is a pocket, so I just took this paper and I folded it up, folded the bottom edge so that it's not got any glue on the bottom. So that's 2 pockets. This one is basically 2 envelopes made from a single square. I did this twice. I did this also for the front signature, and this is just a page from a book that I've been cutting apart for a while for ephemera. This is a book page that I dyed with some black walnut ink, and I had cut away some strange shapes, so I just folded up 2 ends to create 2 pockets. I just used it as it was. I did have to go to Pinterest to remember how to do this fold. So this is a little triple pocket, and then I took the edge of the pocket and I folded it over, and this is what will be bound into the book. So there'll be a little edge, kind of like how vintage books have little edges like this, where illustrations are bound in. So I think it'll be cute. And the last is some paper that's been dyed. Last but very much not least, the very front signature. I just thought it created this beautiful vignette. So we have our doily pocket. It's just a large doily folded in half twice, once to create the pocket, once to be bound in. And then some paper I used to clean up when I was making watercolor paint. I just cut not a full circle, but a partial circle, so it looks like a circle on both sides. And this is just some mail I got. Just some paper that I've dyed with an ink pad, probably. This is envelope, double envelope number 2, made out of wrapping paper, so it's a little flimsier, but I still think it's cute. I may end up cutting off the flaps on this one. I'm not sure yet, but for now, it's flappy. And last but not least, some black paper that was loose in a drawer and got all messed up, so it can't really be used for like an art project, but it can be used for this. It will have a happy little home. So this will be the very front of the book, and I think that'll look so cool when you open it and all the art is inside. And boy, you have these like circles, the little mini in the middle, and then just to close it out, this one has a lot more like writing space. I could like tuck recipes in this last signature, like all the cookie recipes I try for the winter months. Something like that. Anyways, let's get back to our gessoed paper and get painting on it. So I'm just taking my little cheap watercolor palette set and I'm just running the color all over, and we're doing blues and purples. And the watercolor paint does stick to gesso. I've talked about this in a previous video. It sticks interestingly. It creates some really interesting effects when watercolor paint is on gesso, and I think it's just beautiful. So try it if you have a chance to put watercolor paint on acrylic gesso. And I'm just going to kind of randomly swipe this all over. This is probably going to have some sort of cover image on it as well. So I'm not super duper worried about the colors being kind of random. And I like to have a kind of granulating blue. Like this one, I've gotten samples of really grainy blues. You figure out what paint is granulating just by painting with it and seeing how it settles. If you want me to talk more about watercolor paint, I'm no expert, but I can talk a bit in a future video. Just some maybe things you didn't know about watercolor paint, or ways to use it in interesting ways. And I'm just going to use a variety of blues and purples, not really caring whether they're warm or cool. The gesso doesn't like to absorb a ton of watercolor paint, so this is all gonna dull out quite a bit. And then I'm going to dry this with my heat gun, and then after that we're going to splatter on some glitter to give it that really sparkly wintry snowbank effect with all the brown showing through. And you can see the watercolor kind of disappears on the brown paper. It does change the color very slightly, but it stays pretty brown. And that's why I like this paper for this purpose. You could probably also do this on like a black construction paper, or pretty much any colored construction paper, and get some really interesting results. But I like the brown. It's cheap. This was garbage. Now it's art. And I love when that happens. It's usually how I break out of my art blocks, is to make art out of would-be garbage. So yeah, I will stop rambling on and get this dry and go get the glitter. Okay, I have some cheap mica pigment watercolors that I let soak for like 5 minutes before I am going in with them. It really helps get the pigment moving when it's these larger pigments. I recommend doing this with any glittery, sparkly watercolor, and a lot of handmade watercolors need that extra time. I do make watercolors out of expired eyeshadows, and I have a mystery box on my Etsy that carries them. if you are interested in checking them out. I don't make a ton of money from them. I just like making the watercolors. Um, and I would like them to be used. Another garbage art supply. Making art out of garbage. That is something I love. Tell me how you recycle in some of your art supplies. Um, I'm also intending on using some bubble wrap and some netting from like produce within this book uh, because they're pretty. I found some, or I got some light blue bubble wrap in a package I got, and it's just too pretty to not use for something. I'm just sprinkling on some white mica pigment and some blues and purples. You can see the color here has lightened a lot. The gesso loves to absorb water and absorb that color, so it didn't turn out too dark, but I did leave some spaces relatively untouched for some white space. I am also, once I am done splattering this on, I'm going to wipe some away and then I'm going to let this dry the rest of the way. Gesso and brown paper don't dry like art papers do. They don't dry nearly as fast, but that is okay. We can be patient and we can work on something else too. So now that everything is sufficiently sparkly, I'm just gonna dab away. And this technique would be so cool for a finished art piece. I was imagining like mounting this to some sort of firmer surface, like you could recycle the old back of a sketchbook and you could do some like gesso trees or paint little woodland creatures and frame up this as an art piece. And that would be so pretty as like a little wintry piece. I might do that myself. Probably not. I don't know how to paint woodland creatures, but it would be very pretty as like the background for other art pieces or for a collage. I don't know. That's dabbed away. It is sparkly as all get out. So I'm gonna let this dry the rest of the way and we will start assembling our book. Isn't that exciting? Okay, so I just tore off these edges to make sure I didn't accidentally get any extra brown on my book. That doesn't really matter that much. I don't have all of the super fancy bookbinding like tape and stuff, so we're gonna use Elmer's glue and Mod Podge and probably some painter's tape to get this binding all put together, and then we'll cover it with a pretty paper. We'll cover it with Pretty Beaker. He is desperate for love and affection. Oh, poor baby. Yeah, so I'm going to glue my book pages backing on here. I'm going to leave a little gap so I can fold it over on itself. We're probably going to time lapse this. I don't 100% know what I'm doing, so don't treat this too much like a tutorial. More inspiration on things you can do. Let's get into it. Alright, these are glued. I'm going to weigh them down with even more heavy books and probably leave this overnight to dry, or at least until much later in the day. I'm gonna go make a pie. And I'll see you back in a little bit. A little interlude. You may or may not know that I have a little Etsy shop where I sell my art. We opened it in October, and I have something very exciting to share with you that I think if you like this video that I'm making, you would like this. I have 5, and this was posted on Friday, and this video won't be posted when the shop opens, most likely. So I will add text if these are sold out, but these are Winter Nights ephemera packs. I made 5 of these. I put a lot of energy into these, and I just think they're wonderful and magical, and I wanted to share. So we have a glassine envelope that I've stenciled snowflakes onto, and inside we have a bunch of wonderful things. So some printed ephemera of one of my drawings, one of my moon prints, a different moon, little mini stamp, some die cut holographic snowflakes, a not die cut but very cool colored snowflake, some drawings that I photocopied, die cut snowflake, just a little background piece, and a little star stamp in gold. And then we have a little journaling card you can add to your grimoires. I've stamped this, I've splattered this, I've glued this, I've stamped the back too. You could use both sides. Another envelope I've decorated to look like snowbanks. And inside we have a bookmark that's watercolor with these stamped on little town. It's like a nighttime aurora borealis town. And then I found 3 postcards from my personal collection of vintage postcards. They're super old, so they're definitely in the public domain, and I've altered them just slightly. So this one has a gold shimmer. I've stained this lace and sewed that on. The back is vintage music paper. This one I've hand painted on the flowers to make them sparkly. And I photocopied a different postcard to be the back because I just thought it was pretty with the linen texture it had. And this one we have more of the snowflake motif. I've painted the snow on these birds, and the background is the paper we demonstrated making today. And the last piece, a brand new print Star Woman for hope. So if they're not sold out, check them out. Check out my shop if you're interested. Obviously don't buy things if you don't need to, or if you can't afford it. I don't want you to feel obligated, but I wanted to share here because I do have a shop, and I'll link it below. I'd appreciate if you even just look. Etsy tells me how many people look at my shop and favorite it, and it makes me happy every time to see someone wants to see my art. Speaking of wanting to see my art, I am also on Instagram. I post more frequently there, and you might get some sneak peeks into what I'm doing over there. So please check it out if you can, and we will get back to the bookbinding. Hello, we are back. It is glued, and the first thing I'm going to do, people use bookbinder tape to strengthen the edges of their spines. I don't have bookbinder tape. I'm going to use this masking tape. It's going to get paper glued over it anyways, so I think it'll be fine. I will atone for my bookbinding sins someday, but today's not that day. And then I'm going to cut around the shape leaving some room. I'm going to cut some reliefs to allow me to fold the paper around the curve. And then we have to let it dry again, just a little bit. And then we can put paper on the inside. I don't know what I'm gonna do for paper on the inside of this. I could do some of the wrapping paper again. I'm not sure. I'll make the decision during the time lapse. And here it is. We need a lining paper, I think, to avoid bulking this binding up too much. I'm gonna use just a very thin scrapbooking paper, but it's not big enough, so we're gonna have to use 2 sheets. But that's okay. I'm gonna put the seam on the back cover, and it'll be fine. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. So I'm gonna go do that, and I'll meet you back here. You've been here the whole time. I'm the one who's leaving. I'll see you soon. Here it is. It's like a little binder. Little weird shaped tiny binder. I do like working small. I did a little oops. I tore the paper there. It's still a little wet. But it works. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to sew together my signatures with a pamphlet stitch, super simple stitch. I'm not a bookbinder, so I'm not gonna go super into it. I'm gonna make 3 rows of holes on this spine to sew them directly onto. And then I'll probably also sew on a ribbon. And I'm not going to do any of this on camera because I am not comfortable sewing on camera. So I'm going to sew in a ribbon for a closure. Maybe I'll sew it on the outside. I'll probably sew it on the outside. I thought the green would be fun to bring in the green from the paper here. And this ribbon is so pretty. It's in that ephemera pack on the bookmark. It's a vintage ribbon I found at a thrift store. I find a lot of art supplies at thrift stores. Yes, so I'm gonna sew everything off camera. I hope you will stick around for the sexy final shots of this grimoire in its infantile stages before it's been filled with magic. Oh my goodness, I am so excited to start working inside of this book. I'm surprised I finished it in a day. I'm also surprised at how much my bookbinding has improved. So, all my lines, you can look past the stitching that keeps the ribbon on. All my lines are neat. All my signatures were sewn in the same way. They're holding together much better than I've had books held together in the past. So I'm really pleased and hopeful that this will give me something to look forward to working in. It definitely feels like a sister to last year's journey into the underworld grimoire. And yeah, I'm just so excited. Let me know what you think. Do you do any type of art to get you motivated to work in your books again? Or do you have to sometimes start a new project to make you feel excited about art? I don't know if I'm alone in feeling kind of low and out of sorts, and I hope if you do feel a bit low that you find something that can spark a little bit of joy that you can work in and help yourself while you're working on helping others. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again. I'm Galaxy Coop everywhere on the internet. Thank you so much for coming. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.